I can hear the music.
Welcome to the Liberty Collaborative, where the past meets the present in the fight for freedom. We uncover the roots of liberty, spotlight the people who shaped it, and explore what it takes to preserve it today. If you're ready to think deeper, stand stronger, and act with purpose, you're in the right place. Let's reclaim what matters most.
And good Thursday morning, everybody. You are listening to the Liberty Collaborative Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Bowman, with The Right Vibe. I also have K. Carl Smith, the Frederick Douglass Republican, Mike Hancock, Undercurrent on Substack, and the one and only Chris Coyle with Wins Lab. Easy enough for me to say this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing good.
Before we get going, I just got to make sure we ring our bell. And
outstanding.
Here we go. So, welcome everybody, and everybody who's watching online. Make sure if you want to leave comments, we'll respond to them as we are on the air. But before we get into today's topic, which we were supposed to do last Thursday, but Chris was traveling, so we got a little sidetracked. I want to just open up to the floor, starting with you, K. Carl. What's going on in your neck of the woods, and what's happening?
Well, we give you a couple updates. You know, we launched the commemorative 250th year birthday of the United States and the Frederick Douglass T-shirt. That's been going well. We're going to close that window on Friday at midnight. But up to this point in time, my son has sold over 100 shirts.
Fantastic.
Not
I
through
got to
the,
get mine today.
yeah,
Carl.
not necessarily through those who watch this program, but he went to a couple of churches in the last 2 weeks. And Black churches, liberty-minded churches, they love it. So we're going to keep that window open until midnight Friday night. For Friday morning, Saturday morning, we'll shut it down so he can get started on production. The other thing is, I'm not going to beat it up too bad, but I'm launching my own individual podcast. Finally, it's going to be called the Friends of Freedom podcast, and it's going to be launching not this coming Tuesday, but the Tuesday following that. That's going to be, what is that, guys? I don't know what that is. Anyway, hold a second. It's a Tuesday. And in fact, we'll drop it.
K. Carl.
23rd. So every Tuesday we'll drop a new episode. And the first episode, I'm gonna get into Douglas 4th of July speech, what to the state of the 4th of July, and break that down for you and explain how the left mismanages that and say Douglas was anti-American, anti-Constitution, and then explain to you why did Douglas give that speech not on the 4th of July, but July 5th. Check it out.
Fantastic. Well, round of applause for you there, K. Carl. All right, Mike, what do you have going on in your neck of the woods?
Geez, in Colorado, things are going as crazy as ever. I'm actually working on a new op-ed series, and it really digs into what's been happening in Colorado with the progressive legislature that they've been passing. And I mean, we're seeing large companies leave Colorado, oil and gas leave Colorado, small businesses being driven out of business because the price of operating is getting high. The energy costs are continue to rise. So it's just going crazy. So what I've been working on, actually, I've been working on this for well over a year, a series that actually sort of outlines what's been going on and really hopefully hits home with people in terms of what this narrative is and what's going on and what's causing it and who's causing it. So that's my main thing this week.
Fantastic. And what about you, Chris? What do you have going on?
Well, I got to start by just sharing with everyone what we were talking about before we went live. We all saw Aaron's dress up today, and Aaron declared, "I'm hot." And of course, Mike and I are in the olive drab. And K. Carl in Alabama had to make a comment about, "You're what?"
It's human. I'm looking at my pool right now. I can't wait to get in it.
So, heat wave comes to Connecticut, folks. A couple updates from my end. One, I know you guys talked last week about this wacko Republican candidate in the 50th district, House Representative District in Connecticut. My nickname for him is Goofball Boy Blunder. Remember, Batman was Boy Wonder. This is Boy Blunder. And, I think it's instructive, guys, from the standpoint of, and K. Carl, I didn't watch, or Mike or Aaron, your show from last week, but you talked about the fact that fascism can be on the right and the left. And the reality is we have some guy who wants to divide based on gender, race, and religion. And as Aaron and I have instructed all the people we work with, you know, when you're pure centered on what our country was founded on, which is equality of all, you stand against anyone. And that means right and left who would divide based on gender, race, and religion. So I'm really pleased. It actually is boomeranged, and it's given a lot of candidates the ability to really explain who they are and what we stand for. And the beauty is, folks, and Kate Carl, you taught me this with a Stanford study, we really believe in values unite. And so, Aaron, I'm just proud of us and our team coming together and not having to criticize or fight. Just say what we stand for and leave it at that. So that's my update.
Absolutely. And I don't have much of an update other than I got a nice text message at 12 midnight last night from that person. And a whole bunch of other people did too. My phone's been ringing off the hook. Like, why is he texting us this late in the morning?
So I'm helping his former treasurer, and she may have a claim, a legal claim against him for slander, libel.
Oh,
so we're looking into that. And, but this guy is unhinged. So
yeah,
it just shows you from Connecticut to California to Maine to California, there's a lot of wackos running around right now.
Yeah.
I just got to say this, Aaron, if you're going to come on this show and bear all, at least get a tan. a full body tan, at least the head and shoulders.
I don't want to see
this two-tone look you've given us here.
I'll have to start going to the tanning bed. And I have to tell my wife I know Kate Carl says I need to go outside and lay in the sun for a couple hours.
There you go. So guys, the heck is up with this East Coast West stuff, the West Coast stuff? It literally gets more bizarre by the day, by the week. And you just got to shake yourself and go, am I really seeing in plain sight and reading what's going on here? This wacko is now the Democratic candidate in Maine for the Senate.
Which is crazy. I've watched a few things on this guy, and I was watching one where they were talking about the interviewer was asking about his PTSD, and it was very, very interesting as someone who has known others has PTSD to see the way that he responded in it. It was almost theatrical to me. And then he talks about how he's an oyster farmer, but all he does is sell oysters to his mother. Like, his dad's a prominent lawyer. Like, the guy,
he went to Hotchkiss and got thrown out.
Yeah, it's just the whole story doesn't make any sense. And then he's got this tattoo, and like us here in Connecticut, Chris, somebody came out, made these wild comments, and the group said, no, hold on a second, we're not supporting this. But yet the Democrats rally around this guy like he's the best thing out there. It doesn't make any sense. I think people have a real hard time understanding where their principles.
But Kate Carl and Michael, I'd argue it does make sense. What we're seeing is what they really are. They would put a mannequin up to run no matter what. It's just mind-boggling. And do you know that I'll tell you how bad it is. The tattoo, which has now been covered or removed, I don't know what. You know what apparently it was? It wasn't just a Nazi tattoo. It was the logo of the concentration guards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let that sink in.
Well, here's my takeaway. If he's supposed to be the leading candidate to win this race, it goes to show you how inept Republicans are when it comes to campaigning. You can't beat this guy?
Yeah. Well,
what's your message?
Well, Susan Collins, I think, will beat him. But the problem is that across the country, what you see are Democrats being hypocrites, literally, right? They complain about racism and accuse other people of being racism. But if someone on their side actually demonstrates racist or anti-women or brutalizing women or something like that, then it's totally it's totally ignored in favor of, and usually, like here in Colorado, I think I told you guys about the councilman who got arrested shortly after being elected for DUI, right? Well, they always point to who? Trump.
Yeah.
It's like, No matter how bad somebody does on their end, it's not as bad as
Trump must have fed him that 6-pack, right?
So what you're saying, Dr. Hancock, that they have a mental disorder?
Oh,
well, they're using, okay, Carl, I was going there. They're using that, aren't they, as a sort of he's disabled, right? But guys, the other thing
that's projection, by the way.
Yes, guys, that really is troubling to me is racial discrimination. We sort of see it, where we got to tune. But have you noticed the gradual increase in anti-Semitism?
Oh,
and here this guy has this particular tattoo, and instead of saying, "Wait, this tattoo is exactly what they were killing Jews," everyone kind of says, "No big deal." And it's like what happened in Germany and Poland as the Nazis were coming on. First, they'd throw a rock into a store, they'd throw coffee on a Jew. And as one person saw them getting away with violence, then they threw paint on a store and then rocks in the window. It escalates. If you allow this kind of subterranean violence that everyone kind of looks the other way, it's only going to escalate. I think it's
especially when you're in a leadership position, if he wins this race.
Yeah.
I have not seen the tattoo, but just think about the mindset of somebody who puts a tattoo on that body that has that meaning. But my question, where is the tattoo, Chris? I have been paying attention to this guy.
So apparently it was on his chest, and there are photos of him on the internet. Apparently after a few brewskis, as it says, see him with a beer and showing his tattoo. He's now, of course, covered it up. But what he can't cover up, guys, add to the portfolio of Hall of Shame, is it was outed that while he's married, he's texting on some dating site, not just 1, 2, I think he had 3 or 4. I got to give the guy credit. Holy cow. He's got a machine going. And then a girlfriend came out and said he was very violent toward her. There we go.
There you go. There's an image of for it.
If they vote this guy in office, Chris, Maine gets what they deserve. If you want misery and poverty and this guy is your leader, you're going to get it. And you're going to feel terrible about it. You're going to have buyer's remorse. I'm here to tell you. So all these, it's like dating someone. You can't date someone and ignore the warning signs.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't run to the stop sign. They always say love is blind. No, love got good eyes.
Yeah.
We just know the warning signs.
Yeah.
Right? Don't love this guy. You better.
So, but isn't it a reaction, K. Carl, all of you guys, where people are watching this going, why isn't someone saying something? It was just like Joe Biden. Everyone knew he was senile. We all watched it. And then at the debate, he behaved so senile that they finally could not look away, right? In this case, we're seeing sort of this bizarre guy with bizarre behavior, and everyone seems to just tiptoe along and switch to the West Coast, Mike. Here we've got the election is nowhere in the world do they do elections like this, except in third world countries where it's obviously rigged. This looks like something out of a movie or something.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I think the candidate that ended up taking over the second place lead ended up having overnight some huge number of votes where she got all the votes and the other guy got 0. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Mike, you know what you're allowed to do in California? If you can't sign, you can put a dot or dash. How do you verify, K. Carl, Aaron, a dot or a dash next to an ID? But California solved that. You don't need ID.
Yeah, you're not joking when you're saying that. That's the case.
Yeah,
that's the case.
Yeah,
that's sad.
And they allow bundling. They allow collecting. It is so far from any amount of observable truth or observable framework and structure where people can trust.
Yeah.
Right. And yet in California, I think they're getting on planes every day, mostly to leave. And you got to have an ID.
Yeah.
Right. What is it, guys? 64, 65 things in your life you have to do, including going down, getting your YMCA, right?
Yeah.
Post office to pick up mail. It's mind-boggling that this is allowed.
Hey,
Well, that's
Chris.
one thing that's always got my goat here in Alabama. They always want to push this narrative that getting a voter ID for voting is discriminatory toward Black folks. Why is it we're the only ethnic group that's lazy that can't do it? It's a lie. And so what we did in Alabama, if you can't get a voter ID, the Secretary of State actually bought a mobile van like a library used to do in the days going to the neighborhoods. They bought a mobile van to process photo IDs in neighborhoods where people may have transportation problems. So you take all the excuses away.
I love
At least
it.
you think you're taking all the excuses away, but the leadership in the Black community come up with more excuses because they want Black folks to think there's always a boogeyman. And I was told that by a friend of mine that's a former Alabama Democrat legislator off the record. It's all about control.
Yeah.
They think they have the right to Black votes. No, you got to earn it like everybody else, but they don't do that.
What do you think Californians are going to do? I mean, there's a growing joy. Of course, yeah, but is there some way to begin to have passive revolt where they walk out or they refuse to do something? Because getting to the point in LA where this lady let the place burn down, reservoirs were empty. We know the whole story.
Yep.
And there's junk everywhere. I think you're going to see now social action, hopefully peaceful, but they've got to do more because they'll get TV attention. But to allow this go on, this is soft dictatorship. This is ultimate control where you can vote the ballot box by controlling it. Everyone knows it's fake. So what's next?
That's a good question, Chris. I really don't know. I mean, hopefully the people are paying attention, but unfortunately, I see it here in just the local level. A lot of people don't pay attention to what's going on until it's extremely too late. And by that point, everybody that probably had a voice would have already moved out of California.
Well, that's what they're doing. Based on the friends I have there, they're not confronting this. They're just moving out of state. But the problem is when they move out of state, the way they voted in California, they're taking it to their new state, voting the same way.
Yeah, the problem follows.
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
We've got him here, Aaron, in Connecticut.
Yep. And Chris, going back to what you were saying about Biden, and this is something that I picked up through some of the stuff that Mike had sent out. And this is a good point, Mike, that you make, where they deny, then they counterattack, and then they become the victim.
Yeah.
And you see it every single time. And Biden is probably the easiest example to see that. And, he's the sharpest attack. There's nothing wrong with him. And then you had the interview with Dr. Jill Biden or whatever her doctorate's in, I thought he was having a heart attack on stage. But stroke. Yeah. Having a stroke. And then I went and brought him and paraded him around at an event afterwards. Again, they deny, they counterattack, and then they become the victim. And I think that's a great point that you put it in your notes there, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah, they lie all the way through the process.
And the reason why they continue to do that, because they think we're stupid. They think we're stupid.
Because we've never spoke up to them. Yeah,
that's right. It's like they think we're stupid, and there's some people who excuse that, so they think we're stupid. So
well,
that's
guys,
why they
it was
continue to
Donald Trump, and correct me here, but you had the Mitt Romneys, the McCains, Bushes, good folks, country club set. What is the guy? What does George Austin call him? The zip code, 401k, and the reality is Trump came out of New York real estate. And yes, he grew up in a wealthy family but he grew that. And it's fist fighting every day in commercial real estate in New York. You kidding? And I think he's the first candidate now, twice president, that punches back.
Yeah.
And you look at Marco Rubio in some of his hearings, he pushes back. And what I'm proud of is he pushes back on facts. Jim Jordan, you look at it, and folks listening, that's what you got to do. I got confronted last night, shouted down by the chairman of the opposing party, the Democrat Town Committee, as he was leaving, didn't introduce himself like you're supposed to, his address, just started shouting, right? And I spoke up and said, look, we're not for or against anything. What we're for is the facts and the truth. And we're talking about making sure the public knows the truth and the facts before they vote. So we got to stick to what makes us so solid, which is right? The party of Douglas and Lincoln and the truth.
Well, I think people need to stop voting on labels and really start voting on their values. And luckily, we have Kay Carl, who has shown us a way to communicate using Lincoln and Douglas, because when you use the word Republican, conservative, as we talked about before here, that shuts down conversations, or people get irate and you're a Trumper, or you're a MAGA, or you're a white Christian national supremacist, or whatever label they want to throw on you. And I think we really have to start getting people away from these labels. And like we talk about, Chris, voting on our shared values and constitutional principles. And when that starts happening, maybe things in California will start changing. But until then, I think everybody just votes a label. You got a D or an R, and that's how they vote. It doesn't make sense to me. You really need to vote on your principles and your values.
No, to answer your question, Chris, I think in terms of California or any state, what's going to have to get the people to wake up? I think the answer is they have to hear and see a contrasting message of liberty that's so compelling that it opens their eyes. And that is Frederick Douglass. That's what happened to me. I was a staunch Democrat. I drank all the tea. I made the tea for people to drink, the Kool-Aid. But it was Frederick Douglass' message of liberty that opened my eyes up, where then I could see the oppression around me where I couldn't see it before. And I no longer thought I was a victim. I was more than a conqueror. So I think that's what's going to take, because Douglas. Let me give you an example. You mentioned, Chris, you got to give the facts to prove your case. I think it's a little bit more than that. KJ, the junior college sophomore, he was in a history class, and the teacher stood up and talked about how the Constitution is a racist document, and the professor referred to the 3/5 clause of the Constitution. KJ had been reading my book, Douglas versus Marx, and there's a debate between Marx and Douglas regarding the 3/5 clause. So KJ was prepared to challenge the teacher, won the argument in front of the students. Therefore, he won the classroom. Therefore, other students wanted to know what KJ was reading so they can be informed too. So by introducing Douglas into the conversation, into the argument, that's checkmate.
Yeah. And I think that, Douglas is really echoing what the founding principles of this country were all about and stuff. And over time, progressives have taken that and totally distorted it and created what I would call this alternate reality that they force down our throats. And I see this like on a bi-weekly basis at Aurora City Council meeting, where you have these protesters come up and they shout down the council people and call them racist and white supremacists, all of which is never supported by any actual acts of racism or white supremacy. But that's what they do. They distort things. But getting people back on course, helping them to understand what the values are. Frederick Douglass, right? There's Frederick Douglass. There's a whole line of folks after Frederick Douglass that continues to echo those sentiments and those values and stuff. But that's the thing that we've got to do. We've got to get people back into understanding what this country was built for and by whom, and get people back on track.
And Aaron, as we wrap up the show, I'll just go with my closing comments. What I've seen happen around our town, and Aaron, you're part of this, I felt it, is, guys, at first when you insert yourself into the public domain of controversy and criticism, we all take it personally. And we all sort of go, ooh, they said this about me, and they did this and that. And what happens is you get stronger as you have the confidence to assert your God-given right, your constitutional right to speak up, but you also become more calm, and you become, and Kay Carl, you've seen this, Mike, we've all seen this, Aaron, and I'm so proud. I'll close with this. We have a new candidate in the 50th, right? Aaron, I think it's the 50th. Tony Emilio, great guy. His press release, his statements to the media, in a calm voice, when they asked him about running against the Democrat, he said, of the Democrat, we're friends and we get along great. We just have a different view of government. He believes in big government. I believe in a smaller government that should serve the people. And that's it. That was it. Simple, polite, confident. I hope everyone listening realizes you're on the right side of history. We should be proud of our heritage, as Kate Girl says, distinct heritage, and go out and get involved. And don't be afraid. The thick skin will get thicker and you'll like it better and better.
It sure does. It sure does. Go ahead, Mike. What do you got for closing comments here?
Yeah, well, one of the things I would say is that I was reading and going back and reflecting on Plato's The Republic, right? And then I think the fourth segment of that, he defines what is called the guardian class, right? Those group of people who have been raised to make decisions that's in the best interest of everybody instead of themselves. So, they didn't have any property, they couldn't have any children, all that sort of stuff. But the thing that I realize is that what he didn't take into account is the fact that we are sinful people, and there's no amount of training that you can give people that's going to do away with that. So there's no such thing as grooming some group of people. And I think the big distinction here is that you have people who believe that government is best and makes the decision and should be making decisions for all of us. And then you have those who basically believe what our country was founded on, the idea that God gives us our rights. God gives us our rights, and it's really the responsibility of government to protect those rights. So that's the big dividing point, right? And you might use racism or white supremacy or sexual orientation, all that sort of stuff as like your banner to wave. But at the end of the day, the question is, what is the role of government? And it's not to dictate what we should be doing in our lives.
Absolutely. Well put, Mike. Well put. Okay, Carl, what do you have on your end?
Really, there's not much I can add to that. What Chris and Mike said, they hit it right on the head. It's that fundamental question: where do our rights come from? And once you understand our rights come from God, and they cannot be given by the government or taken away, you're gonna stand up and fight for those rights. If you're not, then you're gonna take on oppression, and because you have not become actively involved. So don't forget, in 2 weeks, I'm launching Friends of Freedom podcast, and we got the window open to buy the Douglas commemorative T-shirt until midnight Friday night. We have already sold over 100 of those. My son has, and we'll get those to you before the 4th of July.
Fantastic. And I'll close with this. Those of you who are listening, if you're not already involved in your local community with their RTC, or maybe you're a Democrat watching because you want to hear what we have to say in your DTC, get involved, get out there, find out what's going on in your community, your neighborhood, how money's being spent, how your local government is running and operating, because that's where you're going to make a huge change in your local community. So make sure you get out there and do that, whether it's this week or next week, but take that time to really get involved in your local community. I know I, as a RTC chair, appreciate people when they come in. I met a young family this past week out getting signatures, and she wants to be involved. And she said, I only got a little bit of time. I said, I need you as much or as little as you want to be, but just having a new person there, new thoughts, new ideas is fantastic. And with that, I'll close with this.
Hold up, Suntan boy. Hold up, Suntan guy.
Yeah.
I just saw somebody put a post in earlier. I just found out yesterday I'll be in Houston, Texas, speaking in about maybe a week and a half. So reach out to me via text, the lady that posts that stuff, and I can get you an invitation to come out.
There you go.
All right.
Got it.
Well, remember,
hey, Carl, when you're speaking, I hope you'll promote our Liberty Collaborative podcast.
I have you on my show as a guest. How about that? All three of you guys.
All right.
And with that, folks, remember, you can catch us here every Thursday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And feel free to comment, leave us a question, and we'll hit it up on the next podcast. You've been listening to Liberty Collaborative Podcast. We will see you next week. Peace.
Thanks for joining us on the Liberty Collaborative. If today's episode lit a fire or gave you clarity, share it and be part of the movement. Subscribe